Hello and welcome to another edition of Truth and Rhythm, brought to you by funkandstuff.net. This is the interview show that gets deep in the pocket with contemporary music's foremost masters of the groove. I'm your host, Scott Dr. Goldfine, musicologist and author of Everything's on the One, the first guide to funk. If you don't have your copy, get on over to Amazon and pick one up. You'll be glad you did. Whether you're watching or listening, as always, I thank you very much for your continued interest and support. And if you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe. Subscribe to the Funk and Stuff channel on YouTube. That's where Truth and Rhythm lives. If you have subscribed, get a friend, get family. We need that support. Much gratitude. Very much appreciated. This episode features Ricardo, better known as Ricky Williams, a founding member and drummer, singer, and composer for the 1970s and 1980s funk, dance, and R&B band Mass Production. Based in Norfolk, Virginia, together with his brother Tyrone Williams, close friend LaCoy Bryant, female vocalist Agnes Kelly, and 6 other band members, Mass Production released 8 albums and 11 singles on the Cotillion label between 1976 and 1983. Their best known and noteworthy songs included Welcome to Our World, I Believe in Music, Just Want to Make a Dream Come True, Watch Me Do It, Sky High, Groove Me, Can You See I'm Fired Up, Eyeballin', Forever, Nature Lover, Shantae, Turn Up the Music, Bop, Saucy, Inner City, and Rock. However, the track they are most famous for is their 1979 smash hit, Firecracker. Although the large ensemble, to a large extent, lurked within the shadow of labelmate funk giant Slave, and was sometimes confused with similar bands like Brass Construction, Mass Production definitely had its own unique thing as well. Its propulsive rhythms that Ricky Williams drove were boosted by some powerful guitar and bass playing, punctuated and further propelled by robust horns and raised to a whole nother level with lush vocals and rich harmonies. Their influences abound, from Norman Whitfield and the Temptations to Earth, Wind & Fire to Bohannon to the Barcades, and yes, even to Slave and Brass Construction, and later on even Prince. It is fantastic news that the group has been ramping up again and plans to release new music and take it to the stage. Here, Williams leaves no Mass Production stone unturned, including the influence of marching bands on his approach and style, how he named the band, how he wrote classics like Firecracker, his reluctance to be a lead singer on songs like Firecracker, the band rising to prominence and meeting other famous musicians, how his younger brother Sam Williams took over drumming duties after Ricky took more than a year to recover from a car accident in the early 1980s, how the record industry ultimately chewed up and spat out the band, what happened subsequently, and how he and several original members are primed and pumped to be turning up the music once again. Special thanks to Larry Rachelson. He's been working with and handling some affairs for Mass Production, and he was very helpful in getting this interview scheduled. You'll find that Williams exudes likability, and our conversation really flowed. Hope you enjoy it and find Mass Production's story to be as compelling as I did. It is so exciting to welcome to the Truth and Rhythm Mothership, a founding member of the massive 1970s and 1980s funk, dance, and R&B band Mass Production. I'm talking about singer, drummer, and composer Ricky Williams. Ricky, how are you today?
Hey. Doing fine, man. How about you?
I'm doing well, thank you. So glad to have you.
I'm happy to be here, really. Hey, this is a great pleasure doing something like that, especially with connecting with somebody, and what even we had in previous conversations. You seem to be somebody that's well, articulating this matter. So hey, this is great.
Well, I've been a fan going way back. You guys were one of the main staples at the house parties and dances and clubs back in my high school days and into college. So I was a DJ back then and spun many of those records. So much respect.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that's all good. That's really good. Didn't even know we was in that deep, being a musician. You always love to know when somebody, showing some kind of, notification of the fact that they like you and they appreciate you. So, hey, just to hear this in itself is still, even today, man, it's a real great, it's a great happy moment. So I appreciate it.
Well, much deserved, and very glad that you're still with us and still looking young and vital.
Yeah, and you know, that Kellogg cornflakes. You know, me and Tony, real good.
Excellent. And where are you coming to us from today, Ricky?
Right now, I'm coming to you today from Hackensack, New Jersey, up here in northern New Jersey, right outside of New York.
Okay.
And that's where me and most of the guys at right now. Some of us, you know, we are here and there, but we come from New Jersey.
All right. Sticking close to home.
Yes, yes. And also, you know, our roots are from Virginia, Norfolk, Virginia, which I just got back from there Saturday. You know, I got back in town, went down there, tried to stay connected. Especially that's our base. I still consider our base our home. And here is just more or less like, this is like the business home, but down there is the home, you know, where our heart and family is. So
I got you. All right. All right. Well, that's a good entrance to how I want to get rolling, going a little bit back, testing your memories and your brain cells a little bit to go all the way back and tell me about, you know, where you grew up, how you first got into music, and you and the story, you know, about you and your brothers, the Williams brothers.
Wow. I can note that the Williams brothers, basically, when we started that out with this group, started this all off, it was Tyrone, myself, and Licor Bryant, which we basically consider as a brother too, because we were all 12 years old when we started this thing, you know. We both ventured into it, you know, like a lot of groups. We were 12 years old playing in go-go and strip clubs, you know. That's what, you know, no, parents didn't know, but hey, a gig's a gig, you know. And that's how that's how the three of us got started going in. And from there, even though we were playing together, most of our roots were really, really baked in school. We were in school bands, and which we were really, everything we did centered around that. And so Tyrone and I, that's where all the group came from, really. Tyrone, Licor, and I, that's like, picked everybody, got together, and our hearts and our drive came from really being in a school band.
And so who's the oldest and who's the baby and all that kind of stuff?
Tyrone, I guess, will be considered the baby. But you know, a strange thing, Tyrone is really considered the baby, but he's the master brain. He's the one that's sort of like guide us all. We're like little ducklings. When Tyrone goes, he goes. But he's the baby, you know, and because that was all kind of like really in reference to where the whole thing of mass production came. Everybody, we were compartmentalized and contained, yet everybody had a particular thing that they did. And Tyrone thing was more or less like he was the guy that kept us all together to go for it. But then again, on that, he was the baby until Sam came in, and which is my younger brother. He turned into the baby. But up until he came into the group, Tyrone was really the baby of the band.
And what was it like growing up in your house? You know, was there music in the family, or you know, what inspired you guys to move in that direction?
Well, yeah, it really was. Tyrone and I, we were made. I said we can joke about this now, but we were made to take piano lessons at 2 years old because my older sister was a classical piano player, and he was a drummer in the high school band, which all of us sort of like veered through. And from there, Tyrone and myself, even though my sister was a classical piano player, my brother was the one that we really wanted. We loved that high school band stuff so much that he's the one that we really kind of like went behind. And from there, he sort of like brought everything in. Our house, man, was really crazy simply because of the fact, I was just telling someone the other day, is that he had started the whole thing of that he had half a marching band in my mother's living room rehearsing. And from that, my brother and I, when we used to rehearse for mass production and the groups were further, we were rehearsing this little maybe 20 by 20 living room, the whole band playing, a 2-hour rehearsal with the whole neighborhood would come out and party with us. So even everybody knew we were rehearsing because So we rehearsed that in the living room, my mother's living room, and boom, that was really something, for you to bring that memory up, because that was a great memory. That's how everybody in Norfolk became a part of us, because they were there when we were rehearsing, they were there when we were playing. It was just a great thing.
Wow, it sounds like great times, Ricky.
It was.
And how did you gravitate toward the drums?
From that day with my brother, when he had brought those drums home, he had brought the drums home, and with the marching band, and I'm being truthful about it. There was a marching band in our living room. It was the craziest thing when I walked in, and I saw those drums. And one day he went somewhere, and Tyrone, my brother doesn't even know this until the day, my older brother. I stole his drum, and he took the horn. And we went outside. He broke the horn, by the way. But I hit that drum, and from that moment on, it was the greatest thing in the world. Drums were just like, there was no other instrument but drums, and that, it was just a nice thing for me. It sort of like became my mantra. Nobody saw Ricky without a pair of drumsticks. There were all drumsticks in my life, and that became, like I said, mantra for me.
Were you one of those guys that would walk around with them and just beat on whatever you could all the time?
Everything, yeah. About maybe 3 weeks ago, I was in the post office sending out a letter, and I was just beating. And the postal office, she said, "You must be a drummer." I said, "Why you say that?" "Because you are beating so well to the beat of that music, and you just into it." I said, "Wow, okay. I'm sorry about that, but it's just a bad habit of mine. I've been doing it all my life." And yeah, I was. Everything became a drum. A pot, a pan, a hand, everything was a drum. Percussion instrument, it was just my world.
The rhythm of life.
The rhythm of life. The rhythm of life and love. Yes, sir.
So when did you guys, you talked about playing at 12. When did you first kind of form, what you might call a serious group prior to mass production? And who were your early influences?
Our earliest, the thing about it, when we had first started, we seriously got a group together. It was like I said, Lico, Tyrone, and myself. And then we picked up a couple of guys called the Four Brothers. They became, instrumental also in the group. Where at that time, it was really the Delphonics, because it was the singing group time. It was, the singing group of the Delphonics and the Stylistics and all of that. But we, before we had gotten to that stage, when we were just playing because we just wanted to play, James Brown was the biggest, and James Brown's and anything from Stax Records. Stax Records was just everything that came out of there, we considered to be the jammingest thing on the planet. So that right there was our major influence in things. Matter of fact, when we were little kids, I was just telling my wife not too long ago the story that when my grandmother had first brought this hi-fi, that's what they would call it, in those days, they were hi-fis. And she brought this hi-fi, and we would play Arthur Conley and Joe Tex like crazy. And she would always scream, "You're going to tear my speakers up." But we couldn't help it. It was just that stuff out of Stax, man, was just so well, it was just jamming. It was groovy. So those were our major influence. Basically, I'd probably say Don and Doug Dunn and Steve Cropper, these guys, they were just great how they put that stuff together. They really were.
So what were some of your earlier band names and groups that you were part of before mass production?
Band names? When we started with the singing group, we were called the Sonifics, because like I said, that was we were the moments, the movements, idolizing ourselves after the moments. We were the movements. Reset and the band behind it. We would later we became the Sonifics, just the band. And from one evening on, we became mass production. Out of one evening of a little, I don't know if I can say it, after one evening, things turned around. And no longer did we want to play, we didn't want to be the behind the scene guys anymore. We want to be up front, because at that point, at that time, the Beatles had changed a lot of things, because the Beatles now, they were the band singing. And now the Beatles are, the band singing. And now Earth, Wind and Fire, that's the band singing. So, hey, now we want to be the band singing. So that's how we became mass production, like from the soulnifics, from the movements to soulnifics to mass production.
Was there much debate over what the name would be?
It really wasn't. After I explained to the guys, you want to hear that story or the whole mass production thing? I can do, but it really was. Once I told them, and the reason behind us being called mass production, it just came. The only question came after that was, when is the next gig? That's all the guys were concerned about. Hey, good, let's move on finding a gig, and that was it. But the story was that I was looking at a Black Enterprise magazine, and there was an executive up there, and he was talking. He was an executive at, I believe, Ford, chief operating officer. And I read the article, and he was talking about how prolific and how important mass production is in order to the operation of the company. And I just got like, wow, mass production, and like this from one thing to the next thing to the next thing, and after all this has been assembled together, then you have the final product. And when I read it, it just became, to me, just clear, like an epiphany. Oh wow, that's who we are, mass production. And once I explained it to the guy, they said, okay. No, there really was no debate at all on the thing. It was just everybody went right along with it.
How many members did you have at that point? Because, when I came to the group, I figured that part of the reason it had that name was because it was a big group.
It was, I'm gonna be honest with you, with the size of it, we were always larger than even before we had really gotten signed, simply because of the fact that we were a marching band group. In other words, the foundation of the group was always Tyrone, Lecoy, and myself. But there were a lot of people that were like in the marching bands that was around us. These guys, if they wanted to play, we would come on and play. If you wanted to play, come on and play. And the next thing you know, there were probably at one time 15, maybe 20 people on stage, because of the fact that we were a marching band group, and everybody that was in the marching band with us, guys wanted to play. And Cat wanted to play. If he came to rehearsal and he learned the part, next gig, he was on stage. The way that it ended up being narrowed down to the ones that we had was that we started to do, like, maybe we were doing like 5 or 10 hour gigs, and you only getting like $75. That's the process of elimination that we did out the week, And from that point, hey, that's how it became like the mass production that it was,
Yeah, well, it's funny because the name you got from a business idea, and then you had to get down to business on economics with the group. So
yeah, and when you found like, oh, you can only $75 can only go so far, But the thing about it, nobody really even cared about the cash. We just wanted the gig, Gig was the whole idea behind it. It wasn't even a matter of somebody. Yes, there was one time, I think we did a gig for $10. I think we got like $80 for 10 hours. We got $80 for it. But you know what? We would get, that was the thing. And as long as we were playing, we were all right.
So Ricky, when did you guys got signed in like 75 or something like that? How long were you out there as mass production before you got signed, and how did you get your deal?
We were out as a group. Most of us, like you know, the marching band, I keep going back to that because that was a strong influence on us. We were also in students of Norfolk State University. And being in the band at that, we were kind of like their school house band. We were in the marching band, which made us now, when they had student union had gigs, during the school year, we always played at every function that they had. So it was Mr. Jarvis. Mr. Jarvis, Dean of Academic Affairs. He had told someone about us. And he had really written a letter about us because, like I said, we didn't even know it, that he had felt this way about us. So he had written to someone about us, and they came down from New York to check us out. And from that point on, I think it was about 3 months later that that Two Pepper had wanted to pack us up and bring us on up to New York after that, because it really moved rather quickly. I mean, to the point where it even like threw some people off how fast things move.
So what was the material? Did you have some original songs when you first got signed?
We had some original songs. I don't even think about one of them really ended up being on any of our albums. So we did have some original songs because of the fact of that, nobody's going to blindly sign you. So the thing of it is that they came in, took us up to a studio in Richmond, and we recorded a couple of tracks. And then that's when the whole process really started. We had about 4 originals, I believe. Like I said, was none of them, maybe one, I think it was Galaxy, that maybe, or just a song, it may have been 2. They ended up on the album, but those were the only originals, one from the demo presentation that we gave in order for it to end up being signed, because it wasn't a thing with them when we had signed. It wasn't just idea of us presenting out a demo. They wanted to see how we reacted and how we handled ourselves in the recording, studio process, which we have been doing. Like I said, my brother Liko and I, we recorded our first record when we were 10 years old on the Frankie label, which was also the Gary U.S. Barnes a label. And that was our first record contract, really. And from there, we went on to them. So we had already had a little bit of experience and all in just the processing and the logistics and how to handle a recording session.
So you guys signed to Cotillion, Cotillion, and I only became aware of that label really through you guys and through Slave, which I think you guys signed probably before they did, right?
We did. And we didn't know much about Cotillion either. And was years later that Cotillion was Atlantic's old jazz label. The label had been active earlier, but it was just a jazz music label. They revived it with Henry Allen. And that's when they signed us. I believe also the group Clear may have also been signed under the Cotillion label too. And but they had those 3 acts. I don't know about, I'm trying to think if it was Sister Sledge under that label. They weren't under that label, right? But they were also there. And it was, like I said, it was their first jazz label that I guess they wanted to revive it. And you know how labels like to subsidize, Atlantic and then Atco and all of these things, because we were really under the WEA umbrella. So for some reason, it's like, hey, let's pull another label on. And that's how we ended up continuing.
Now, when you first formed, you had, what, like 9 guys and 1 female singer, right? That was the makeup of the band?
That is really the hard debate of mass production, when we really became the structured group. The guys that we have, right? You're right, 9 guys and 1 female, Agnes.
And was there sort of a conscious thought process where you thought, we want to have this female vocal to help offset the guys?
No. We were still, when we had formed the group, it was it was really just the 9 guys, but something strange happened. People were really getting into Shaka Khan and Patti LaBelle at the time because we were doing local gigs. Like I was saying, we were doing anything Norfolk State wanted us to do. And they were really into Shaka Khan and like Patti LaBelle. Larry, which was our lead singer, he could handle that. So we got, and that's how she became really a member of the group from that point on to fill that particular hole that we didn't have. And that's how she became the one female.
Okay. So let's talk about some of those records, Ricky. The first one was Welcome to Our World in '76, which was a great title, I think. I mean, it was welcoming everybody to that mass production world. And you had led off with Welcome to Our World, the title track, which was some of a hit. Got to number 32 on the R&B chart, number 5 on the dance chart. How did you guys feel about how that album came out and getting that kind of recognition?
We felt absolutely great. I mean, you mentioned it. I actually, to this day, remember being in the studio recording that song. I really do. And because we were having so much fun doing it. I mean, it was, you know, anytime, like I said, you do something and you get a positive response from it, it was just nice. It was wonderful. We thought we was, you know, doing something that we really felt that, you know, we were offering to someone and they were appreciating, and they were showing appreciation back by the fact that, hey, it ended up the road doing gigs. So, you know, always would come back to that. So it was pretty good.
What was your guys' process like when you're in the studio? Who kind of like directed what, and how did you come up with arrangements and decide who would solo when and all that kind of stuff?
A lot of that, like I said, I was doing a lot of writing. And so the thing of it is, a lot of the logistics of how we were going to go about doing it was Tyrone, Gregory, and Otis were more like, you know, sort of the ones that were put their heads together on who was going to do what and how they were going to do it. Otis was ready. Otis and Larry was more or less like the, they would work on the backgrounds, getting all of that prepared, while Tyrone would more or less be the rhythm section coordinator. He was there for the rhythm section, getting that right, because that's how we would do things. We would like work, we would put maybe about 4 or 5 hours into working on just the rhythm section. And then we would put another 4 or 5 hours just working on the vocals. And then somewhere along during the week, as we would get together, we would just, you know, marry those two things and then work it out like that. And that's how basically we did it. But it was more or less everything. When we went into the studio, there was no who's going to do what, when you're going to do it, or how you're going to do it. We got that all prepared back in rehearsal. When we were doing the rehearsal, everything was already mapped out. Only thing we really had to do was just go in the studio and do it.
And Ed Ellerby is credited as producer. Who was he?
Oh, wow, Scott, that's a great question. You know, one that I really don't know how to answer because of the fact of that, you know, Ed, he brought us into the game, and we appreciate him bringing us into the game. But he was our producer, and I don't know how much, you know, you want me to speak on that, but the thing of it is that we were, like I said, we appreciate him bringing us into the game. So I would just leave that at you.
Well, you know what? On these shows, there's been a lot of groups that have producers that get credited, but you know, they were important in the band getting where it got to, but did not necessarily hands-on produce the group.
Yeah, well, you know, we all know what a producer, you know, is, or what a producer should be doing, you know, and it's in my experience that a producer is the person that basically formulates it. He is the director, you know, if it was a film, like I said, a director in all of this. But for us, we found out that a lot of it was on us. And more, there was more on us that should have been on us because of the fact that we were walking really into a game that we really didn't know. You know, we really didn't know this game as well. Like right now, you know how the saying goes, if I had, you know, the knowledge now, but we were walking into a game, inside of a game, working inside of the game that we really didn't know the rules. And come to find out really years later that nobody knew the rules. And when you're in a situation like that, it's like, whoa, you start walking and doing things you got no business doing because, you know, nobody knew the rules. So I just said, yeah, on producer on that particular situation was title only. That's what you credit only on the album. That was it. We had to weed through this whole thing ourselves.
Yeah. Well, I know as time went on, you guys started getting more direct production credit on the records. You know, I went back and re-listened to all of these albums to talk to you today, so I wanted it to all be fresh in my mind. And on the first record, and in some of the ones after that, I hear some Hamilton Bohannon influence in some of the rhythm and playing. Is that something that was there, or you feel is there, or was that one? You mentioned some other people like James Brown, but was that also an influence?
Oh, you talking about Bohannon?
Yeah.
Oh, well, you know, I could go and you brought up another name that is, you know, sometimes we will miss, but Bohannon was yes, we love Bohannon, and that might as well could have been because of the fact of that these guys, like for him, for instance, his jam. I was just listening to him the other day, and the groove was just thumping. So yes, he wasn't, you know, he wasn't influenced in some of the things we're doing because of the fact that we loved his music too. And he, Jimmy Castor also, you know, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. Before I move past this one, I just want to mention so the viewers know some other great tracks on this record. I Like to Dance, great guitar, rhythm and lead on that one. Fun in the Sun was a little jazzy type of cut.
Yeah.
And Wine Flow Disco, interesting on that one is that really it's more funk than disco, but you got disco on the title.
Yeah, you know, that one, the title of that was a joke. The title of because basically we were supposed to be doing a promo, and our manager producer suggested that we do it as a disco. That's how we were going to get people out. So we came up with this thing, Wine Flow, and it just rhymed with disco, and we just joked about it and joked about it. And next thing you know, it's on the album, Wine Flow Disco. But we didn't think much about it, but that's how that title ended up on there. And you know, you think about the things now, maybe we should have just left the disco off, be Wine Flow. But that's how the disco got caught up in there, basically being a joke.
It's like one of those like working titles you put on something and then you think you're gonna.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it never changed. And when you look up there on the album and there it is, it's like, hey buddy, it's too late now. You branded, so you might as well just put one.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was really a working title because of the fact of that the promo gig that we did didn't turn out the way it was, and we joked and it became an inside joke to us.
Now, did you guys go out and tour right after that first record? Or did you do some more records before touring?
No, we went right out. We went directly out. Like, you know, Wine Flow, Welcome to Our World did pretty nice for us, you know, but we went directly out on the road. Hit the Southern Belt, and it was pretty, you know, it was pretty cool.
Who are some of the acts that you were sharing the bill with back then?
Oh, back then there was a lot of guys that started with Scott, Sun. It seemed like it was a conglomeration of just like groups like ourselves, funk groups like ourselves, with some barcades, a lot of barcades. I think we had started out that year, if I'm not sure, I believe it was the barcades. And going out with the barcades, it was barcades, Sun, Cameo. We worked around a lot of cats like that, sort of like here, there, Cool in the Gang, you know, like that. Which we became very good friends with. Cool, is a nice guy.
How did you feel? Well, obviously you just mentioned Cool, but how did you feel getting to actually meet some of the guys that you kind of looked up to? Like we talked about Stax earlier, playing with the Barquets. You know, what was that like when you would actually get to rub elbows with some of those guys?
Well, you know, it's so the Barquets. Before we had met the Barquets, we had saw Stax, the movie Stax, and they were on it when they were doing this, you know, the Son of Shaft and all that. And then here we are, we working with them. It's an experience, man. Some things you just can't put you just can't put words on it. From folks that you're admiring, you're looking up to them like saying, wow, this is who I want to be. And there you are, you're on the show with them, opening up for them. And it was pretty nice. They were cool too. They came to the dressing room, and then meeting James Alexander, that was really something, because you know James goes all the way back to Otis Redding. So it was meeting him was really like wow. He was one of those, you know, all right, happy to meet you, sir. And to this, you know, respect him like that.
Yeah. And what was the mass production show like at that time? Did you guys already have sort of, you know, particular look and a particular presentation?
Our show at that time, especially when you look at it, when you think about, okay, the album picture for our first album, which you're speaking of, Welcome to Our World, that album picture was kind of like all illustrated around our biggest idols at that time, the Isley Brothers, because the Isley Brothers were influence on us. You know, matter of fact, they were instrumental in bringing us into the game. They don't, you know, we would sit down and they're the ones that would give us, when we had a chance, the one-on-one talk about, you know, don't do this and don't do that. You know, O'Kelly Isley, you know. So
Jersey connection there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, you know, right over in Tina, right over to the parties, you know. And so they were very instrumental. And so with that, we sort of like picked up, hey, you know, we like that. They were doing leather. We like, so let's do leather. Islanders are doing it. It's not going wrong with them. So how can it go wrong with us? So we've sort of like modeled ourselves on the first 2 or 3 albums after those guys, because that's how important they were to us, you know. And especially when you're being around them and you're looking at them, and each time an album came by, it was just like, it just touched us so much. It really like was an impact on us. And that's how our shows then became like, we basically also took a model from, I'm going back to marching band. You know, when marching band, especially down south, they take marching bands very seriously. So during the halftime show, you got to come out wham wham. So that's how we took that to our stage presence, to our marching band, you know, days, onto the stage with us, and that's how things ended up being, sort of like influencing us.
I got you. So, what did you take from that first record and tour experience that you brought into your second record, which I think was Believe in 1977?
You know, the thing about it is the signing with Cotillion Records. It was pretty cool because of the fact they never got in the way of us and our music. They had always given us free leeway. And you know, you just don't do that with groups because it's about the bottom line. But the one president of Henry Island, he always told us that you guys are musicians. And the thing about it, you're musicians that like to play. And that's how we wrote. We wrote as musicians. So the thing is, when we wrote a particular song or something, everybody's song was from the heart. No one wrote anything sort of like to say, let's do this because this is the way that everybody else is doing it. They wrote a song because this is what they really felt and wanted to write. So when we went into Believe, it was more of the same, but we were taking songs that we were working on and we believed in, and that's how it went right into Believe, and that's how it became the title of that album, because we were doing what we believed in. And so my albums were titled by LeCoy Bryant. He was the one that really came off the lighter. He was the album title, and he said, "I really believe in this." And there you go, Believe.
Yeah, looking at it, you wrote the first 3 tracks on it, including I Believe in Music, which was a single. So really it was like the Ricky show to start that one.
Yeah, but you know, I was like, that goes back to us being compartmentalized. The thing is, I was doing a lot of the writing, and when I finished doing the writing, the guys, mostly like Tyrone and Drum Gold and then they sort of like took it in and say, okay, let's get the rhythm section going. Ty and Lee and all will work out the rhythm section of the song, and then we would start on the vocals. And we've sort of like, that's how we worked in it, because of, you know, I was still under this thing of the Ford assembly line thing, you know, mass production. And I was rolling out songs that on that assembly line, that to the point where they say, well, Rick has all of those. Let's go with them. This is the time the album we were supposed to be recording. He got the song, so from this point on, let's make the songs happen. So that's how I ended up, my name ended up on the lineup. I love that assembly line.
Was there any discussion in the group? I mean, there were a lot of those 70s bands, 70s R&B and funk bands, that no matter who wrote it, they would just like put all the names on it. And I'll tell you, all of them that I talked to today are sorry that they did that. Was there any discussion, you know, whether you guys would do that or just put individuals' names on the writing?
No, we never got into any kind of debate or argument or anything like that. Ricky wrote the song. Let's record the song. Ricky made it happen. Otis wrote the song. Tyrone wrote the song. Let's make it happen. It was nothing like that. Never internally within us. That even to this day, with us as we are now, was sort of like who wrote what, when did they write it? It was more or less like, okay, you wrote it. Let's get this song going. It happened. So it was never that kind of discussion.
Well, on this record especially, you start to really get a feel for mass production strength in falsetto lead vocals, and also the group harmonies and vocals. I mean, with all the band stuff and the great horns and rhythm and everything, I think that helped set you guys apart, was that really strong group vocals.
Yeah, I have to really give credit to Otis. I call him Otis, James Drumgo, and Larry Marshall for that, because of the fact that they're the ones that really hammered the vocals. I didn't want to do it. I did not want to rehearse vocals like that. To be honest with you, it was like, you know, it's time to do vocals, Ricky. And I said, oh man, I wanted to just play the drums, you know, but we got to do these vocal rehearsals. So, you know, you sit there 4 or 5 hours doing vocal rehearsals, crazy. But they hammered that in, and that was the way we more or less like did things, you know. That was their job. That was their part of the package. That's what they were supposed to do, and they did it. You know, they smacked us around. Come on, let's go. And believe me, it was a literal smack around. Let's go. Yeah.
That's like part of the drill team mentality.
Yes, it is. You know, because, and you're right. You know, that marching band discipline, that it played an important part. It really played an important part in our band, because everyone in the group, except for Larry, was in the marching band, except for Larry and Agnes. They were in the choir. But everyone in that group was in the marching band and the jazz band. So we all had that discipline of like, rehearsal is essential.
Well, some other influences that popped to my mind that we haven't mentioned yet on this one, especially I Believe in Music, is the Temptations and sort of the Norman Whitfield influence. Did you guys enjoy that as well?
You know, I wouldn't sit here and say, you know, because of the fact of that one of my musical days changed when I heard Cloud Nine. You know, so subliminally, that's probably what was there. But when I heard Cloud Nine, that became like, what? You know, and that song in itself, a ball of confusion and all those things, man. They, you know, those songs were very, 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 very instrumental in a lot of people's lives. And yes, they made a big influence on me. So subliminally, you know, it's to deny it. I would never deny it. I'm gonna say, hey, no, I didn't. But you know, yeah, it was there. It was there because of the fact that I love that music. I really did.
Yeah, well, I mean, at the time, it was in the air. It was in the DNA of funk and R&B at the time.
Yes.
Other characteristics of this record that kind of continued with your other records was Cosmic Lust was a single and it was instrumental, and you guys did a lot of instrumentals. And then also you tended to put an interlude on every record. So what was the thinking with the interludes and the instrumentals?
The interludes was something that Tyrone, Drum Gold, and Rodney Felsen, they loved doing those interludes. That's to go with the instrumentals, right? Because of the fact that we were musicians, I'm sorry, that loved to play. So the instrumentals became like, they were just a part of us because of the fact, going back to that band, you know, the jazz band. We were in the jazz band, and we loved to like just jam and gig. And so when we did the instrumentals and the interludes, it was just, I don't know, maybe it was too much beer, I can tell you, but they liked it. We always did those interludes for the sort of like fillers, transitional. They were transitions from one thing that we were going to the next, and that's where they came from.
Well, I'm thinking with the instrumentals, maybe you were like, hey, we've done enough work on those vocals. We're doing an instrumental here.
Hey, look, I love it when we did the instrumental. That was me one day, one session I did not have to sing, you know, I really did. So that was great, yeah.